Welcome to Starship TV. Today, I'd like to take you on a journey through one of the most fascinating and influential periods in American entertainment history, vaudeville. Though it may be gone, its legacy is all around us, from television and film to comedy and variety shows. So let's dive into the story of vaudeville, where it came from, what made it special, and why it still matters today. What was vaudeville? Vaudeville was a form of variety entertainment that flourished in the United States from the late 19th century through the early 20th century. It was made up of unrelated acts grouped together into a single show. These acts could include singers, dancers, comedians, acrobats, magicians, trained animals, ventriloquists, and more. In essence, vaudeville was the original variety show. The origins of vaudeville. To understand vaudeville, we need to go back to the mid-1800s. In those days, working-class Americans found entertainment in places like saloons, music halls, and minstrel shows. These venues were often rowdy and not considered respectable for families or women. One of the earliest precursors to vaudeville was the minstrel show, popular in the 1840s and 1850s. These shows did influence later performance styles, including comedy sketches and musical acts. In the 1870s and 1880s, Tony Pastor, a performer and theater manager in New York City, began offering clean variety shows that could be attended by women and children as well as men. Pastor opened his theater on the Bowery in 1865, but it was in the late 1870s that he became a pioneer of family-friendly variety entertainment. He is often called the father of vaudeville. Vaudeville becomes a national phenomenon. By the 1880s and 1890s, vaudeville had exploded across the country. Theaters sprang up in cities and small towns alike. One of the most influential figures during this time was Benjamin Franklin Keith. Along with his partner Edward Franklin Albee, Keith opened a network of vaudeville theaters, starting with Boston in 1883. They enforced strict rules, no vulgarity, no alcohol, and shows ran like clockwork. This system gave rise to what was known as the vaudeville circuit. Performers would travel from city to city, playing a different theater each week. The most famous of these was the Orpheum Circuit, founded in San Francisco in 1886. Another major chain was the Keith Albee Circuit, which eventually merged with others to become part of RKO Pictures, yes, the movie studio. The Golden Age, 1900 to 1930. The early 20th century marked the golden age of vaudeville. Between 1900 and 1930, vaudeville was America's most popular form of entertainment. There were thousands of theaters across the country and tens of thousands of performers who made their living from the stage. Some of the biggest names in entertainment got their start in vaudeville. For example, Buster Keaton, who would go on to be a silent film star, performed in his family's slapstick comedy act as a child. The Marx Brothers, who later became famous for their films, honed their craft in vaudeville for over a decade. W.C. Fields, known for his dry wit, started as a juggler. Mae West, later a screen siren, wrote and starred in risque vaudeville skits. Eddie Cantor, Al Jolson, Sophie Tucker, and Jack Benny all rose to fame through vaudeville before becoming stars on radio and in film. One reason vaudeville was so successful is that it appealed to a broad, diverse audience. Immigrants, in particular, loved vaudeville because it didn't rely heavily on English, it used visual comedy, music, and spectacle that anyone could enjoy. Vaudeville's decline. So what happened? Why did vaudeville disappear? Several factors led to its decline in the 1930s. The most important was the rise of motion pictures, especially talkies, films with sound. The first major talking picture, The Jazz Singer, was released in 1927, starring Al Jolson, a former vaudeville star. Suddenly, audiences could watch variety acts and dramas from the comfort of a movie theater, for less money and without waiting for a traveling troupe. At the same time, radio was booming. By the early 1930s, families gathered around the radio to listen to comedy, music, and drama, all without leaving home. Many vaudeville stars made a successful jump to radio, but the live theater format couldn't compete. The Great Depression, beginning in 1929, was the final blow. With people struggling financially, few could afford to buy tickets to live shows. By the late 1930s, most vaudeville theaters had either shut down or converted into movie houses. Vaudeville's legacy. Although vaudeville itself is gone, its spirit lives on. It laid the foundation for television variety shows like The Ed Sullivan Show and Saturday Night Live. The concept of the stand-up comedian grew out of vaudeville monologists. Even today's talent shows, like America's Got Talent, echo the vaudeville format of showcasing different acts one after another. Moreover, vaudeville taught entertainers how to perform for live audiences, how to perfect timing and delivery, and how to entertain a crowd in just 5 or 10 minutes, a skill that remains valuable in show business today. Conclusion. Vaudeville was more than a form of entertainment. It was a cultural institution that reflected the dreams, humor, and diversity of early 20th century America. It gave us legends, laughter, and a tradition of variety performance that still echoes through our media today. So the next time you watch a comedy act, a sketch show, or even a viral talent video online, remember that the roots of all these lie in the golden, glittering age of vaudeville. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.